Hello, we are Francis Street First, and as always on Tuesdays, we have a podcast, Lunch Break with the Pastor, and our regular co-hosts are Candy Sheehan and Jennifer Tanguay. And so good to see you. Thank you so much. We had a very interesting topic last Tuesday, and today I want to ask you to think about several things that are related to our humanity. What kind of human beings we want to be. And especially with all this technology, with everything that is possible to do, what if one day, and since it's already scientists talk about cloning, what kind of individual we want to clone? Or clone it after someone. And since there is so much going on in the world, and since I'm from Russia and I correspond with so many Russian people, so I see that the tendency that people have now in Russia is to follow the leader, which is happening in every country. So leader defines qualities of our characters that are valued in a certain time of history, right? Am I right? We usually do that. So we look at the person who is popular, who is respected, followed, and then we want to be like him or her. And that's what I thought. Two things today that we can talk about is one, what defines success for us, or who is that successful person that we want to be like. And of course, along with that, who would you want to clone if you had the power? And if you think about Vladimir Putin, for example, so people in Russia praise him, many people, for his masculinity, they say, for his forcefulness, and of course that affects their understanding of this war with Ukraine. They want to believe that their leader made a good decision and everything he does is right, and that's why they're so passionately supporting him. So I wanted to look at these qualities of our human personalities that are valued in history. And that's what I found very interesting, a connection with Nietzsche. So certainly it applies to Hitler, who believed that he followed and quoted Nietzsche a lot. But Nietzsche also has quotes that apply to people who are abused. Because, for example, my mother's favorite quote was, what does not kill us makes us only stronger. So that's actually on the side of people who are repressed and people who are mistreated, abused, who find themselves, like in this case, like Ukrainians, who look down at by Russians. Always Russians think of them as people who are not completed, whose language is not correct, whose everything is just not right. And so Nietzsche said, historically the answer has been simple to this answer, who do you think is the perfect human being? And so Nietzsche said, haughty, manly, conquering, domineering, the highest and best turned out type of man. You see, that's what at that time, right? Okay, so we don't think that this is a perfect individual, correct? Also, historically, people will add automatically today a beautiful and submissive woman. Because if we think about heroic personality, a leader, of course he deserves to have the most beautiful, intelligent, but submissive woman, a weak one. So we don't want those strong women, am I right? Okay, so here it is. And I invite you to think about it. So what that ideal human being that we want to be. And also, even the Emperor Julian said in his time, the nobler of the cynics for their part say that great Heracles, so left to mankind the greatest exemplar of their way of life, meaning seduction, power, violence, and of course putting people in labor and enslaving people. This is what used to be ideal. Alexander the Great, Julius Caesar, so conquering, gaining more territories. So how do you Candy, and you, Jennifer, defined that ideal human being, that perception of it changes over centuries.
I would tell you that because we are in such a politically divided time right now, I just immediately jumped to that. I think Liz Cheney and I would not agree on most things. You know, she's a Republican representative, and we would be kind of on opposite ends on a lot of things. But I admire her so much. She has been willing to stand up and tell the truth when it really wasn't in her best political interest to do so. And I just so admire that someone who's willing to tell the truth no matter what cost it has to them personally. And I think, boy, is that bravery. You know, I hope that I would be able to do that, you know. You know, it's kind of like truth to power. That's a slogan that we use sometimes. But, you know, I think that's kind of important that if you could just tell the truth, be kind and loving, you know, I would add that as a tribute, a trait I like. And so the conquering, powerful person is not someone really I would want to emulate, I don't believe. And, you know, I just think there are other things I would value much more. And I'm wondering, Jenny, I'll pose this question to you. Does your idea of what is good change as you age? I'm an old woman now, and so maybe do I see things differently than I would because when I was younger, I might have wanted more power. I might have wanted to be the best. I might have wanted different things. And I'm curious, do you think that may change or do you see things differently? I'll listen. I'd love to know.
Well, if I were asked this question back in my teenage years, I would probably have picked the boy bands and the hot guys. They're worth cloning, you know. But now to look at this question and consider all the options, I wouldn't want to clone anybody. There's no perfect person. I mean, Jesus, but was he actually really perfect? I don't know. He came in the form of a human and had the human tendencies. So, you know, there could have been stuff that he done that wasn't so perfect. God's perfect.
Yeah, he probably, Jesus would have had struggles maybe. It wouldn't have been easy for him, just
Right.
like it's not always easy for us. He just had maybe more determination to do the right thing. But I do think, I kind of agree with you, Jenny, in that there is not that perfect human. I couldn't think of anyone I would want to clone, although I could tell you people I admire. I admire Jimmy Carter. I didn't think he was the greatest president we ever had, but he has done so much for Habitat with for humanity and has built so many houses for the homeless. He has done things that I greatly admire. And so I can pick out traits in people that I think are so amazing that I love, but I don't think that makes them the complete perfect person maybe. Lydia, what do you think?
Thank you so much, because, and I'm glad that Jennifer and now you, Candy, brought up Jesus Christ into that, because my whole conversation was inspired by this book by Walter Wink, and it is called The Human Being. It's an amazing book, and it analyzes Jesus Christ from this perspective of the ideal human being. And so, and the subtitle of this book is Jesus and the Enigma of the Son of Man. And so we know how Candy and Jennifer actually said that maybe he was not perfect in everything he did. Like, people will talk about how he took this whip and tried to cast out people from the temple. So he showed some elements of anger. But so that's what I thought when we talk about what is that ideal human being that we want to be. Unfortunately, if we had the technology now, and in some ways we are getting there, of course people will probably first think about creating a human being who does not have any genetic kind of a gene that causes genetic diseases, that is absolutely a healthy person, does not have bad eyes, does not have poor hearing, of course is tall and slender and whatever, color of the hair, but smart, absolutely smart, successful. Everything that we probably think about cloning, that whatever takes a person to success. then this is what we will clone. But again, another side of that is who do we clone it after? Because we immediately have this image of a successful person. Is it money? Is it successful marriage? Or career that is so successful that the person becomes maybe the CEO or president of the country, if not the company, or opposite, president of the company, if not the country. So the world leader, that's what we think, like the world leader needs all these qualities: health, intelligence, and beauty. And again, maybe submissive, beautiful woman if it's a man. But the thing is that it's not what Jesus Christ is teaching. So that's what I wanted to bring today on the screen. Two kind of subtitles: positive aspects of the human being and the negative aspects of the human being. So let's stop first on the positive aspects, because we think about people who today will take, or maybe when they come back and watch again this podcast, who want to find that place at work where they feel good about themselves, where they achieve what they sense like their calling is, when their skills and talents are applying and applicable to the vision of the company. And if people who lay leaders in the church, of course, we want people to succeed in the church, be positive leaders for the community, and people have good relationships. So let's talk about positive aspects of the human being. And tell me if you agree. This is a person who is proactive, non-violent, courageous, sees conflict as necessary. You see, that's for people who are, that's what Candy you said. So telling the truth with love. So, but not avoiding a conflict. Willing to sacrifice for others. Rejects this person's domination system. Again, speaking with love, but addressing the issue. And that's what I hope people in Russia will address the issue. It's a domination system. The tyranny promotes different things. So this person has discipline. This person is childlike and shares power. Love his enemies and compassionate. And of course, Walter Winks brings other characteristics that I actually question, because one of them is it is ruthless. And I think, in what way ruthless? So I just even had to go to the dictionary, look for synonyms. And I just still struggle with this ruthlessness, though, if you think about Jesus Christ, he probably maybe acted ruthlessly when he was chasing out all these tax collectors from his father's house. So, but that's why I did not put it on a screen. Also, this person, Walter Wink, says seeks wholeness. And I think those aspects of our human being are very important. So will you add anything to this list? What did I miss? Or maybe what Walter Wink missed in his book? Or maybe something you disagree with?
Exactly. I'm kind of looking over the list, and I see this as being, this is a pretty complete list, I think. I'm like you, at least in our culture, ruthlessness has a negative connotation.
I think so.
And so, if you're ruthless, unless you are so sure you're right, it would be hard to be ruthless. And there are many things, I'm not positive about a lot of things in my life. I'm pretty sure about things. I guess if I knew I was right, I could be ruthless. But that's kind of taking things to another level, really, that I would have trouble believing in, I think. I don't know. Caring and kind, I guess if you love people, you would be caring and kind. That's what I think about compassion. That kind of fits with caring and kind. And so that list looks pretty complete. Jenny, what do you think?
Okay.
Trustworthy, honest, but I guess those can go under compassion too.
Well, and you would want, someone to be loyal, maybe. Is that what you said? Yeah.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think, maybe.
That's a good
But,
one. So,
you have to be careful when you're loyal to someone, unless you're very, very careful, because you could be loyal to Putin, and actually, I think perhaps maybe you shouldn't be. You'd
Yeah,
have to choose
loyalty.
carefully who you want to be loyal to. That would be tricky.
That's a good catch, Candy. Thank you. Because loyalty also is connected to our values. But also another side of loyalty is fear. So what motivates us to be loyal? Our values. And our values, as we see, can be very confused. Again, what is our ideal image of human being? And we could say, oh, strong, kind of cocky, the one who pushes and always defeats others, and strong and handsome and healthy and always unabusive, domineering. So then we say, okay, I'm loyal to this person because of my values. So that's what, yeah, you're right. Loyalty is kind of tricky. But what Walter Wink has also, a positive human being, one of the aspects is it blesses the poor, mourners, the hungry, and the persecuted. So that's another aspect. And it also empowers healing and even exorcism. So it's kind of, that's what Jesus did. So because he talks about Jesus as an exemplary, like a highest human being. And so that's why Walter Wink in his book, he puts it with capital H and capital B. So the human being with a capital H. So that's what, like we talk, Jesus is the man, the Son of Man, right? So that's what I think he adds these qualities, that not just being childlike like Jesus, not being just share the power, but also helping the poor and being on the side of the persecuted. Okay, but I still have a problem with the ruthless. I don't know. Why does he have it among the positive? Okay, so let's move now to the negative. And again, when we thought of the positive, that's what, when my question is kind of provoking, who will you clone a person after as an ideal individual, an ideal human being, if you had the power? So let's talk about the negative and compare also with Walter, and it's a long list. So it's a passive person, non-resistant, cowardly, fears conflicts, fosters individualism. Oh, and here's a difference, because Walter Wink also talks about, on another page it was, I noticed, he talks about individuation. So it's a big difference between individualism and individuation. So I think the positive side, when we allow others to practice their individuality. So differences, right? So we respect that difference in other people. Am I right? So then let's go through the list now. Identifies the ego that we have inside of us with the self. So as a rule of thumb, our negative side is like we are very selfish, narcissistic. So it's a spiritual nomad. That was I was so curious about. So it seems to me now that what Walter Wink says, that when people kind of do the church hopping or even religion hopping, they just find something so dissatisfactory. And that relates to the judgmental side of the negative human being. So what is not something that I like and approve, so censorship is a big part of the negative human being. So they just censor it, they dislike it, disapprove, judge, and they leave. And so that's what relates to our ego. So anything that kind of does not match what we want from life, we do not approve. And then also they're childish. And they act of the power of the animal instinct. And we can talk a little more about that. And they fear power, which I also found interesting. Because if the ideal image of a person who practices power, why do they fear power? Maybe because also they kind of judge and have this animal instinct, what is safer. This is where they put their loyalty, right? And of course they're judgmental. So that's a list. So what do you think? How full is that list? What do you add to that? What I did not put, okay, go ahead, Candy.
Well, I was just looking at, the fear's power. I think people are often the narcissistic type that exert so much power over others. It's because they have this fear of losing power. They have a fear of not being the one in power.
Oh, I
That's what
see
I was
what you
thinking. I was
say.
trying
Yeah,
to
okay.
figure out what I thought that meant. But fears power, and I think it's more like they fear not having power, that someone else
Yes,
might
I,
have
I
this
agree.
power
That's
over
what I
them.
thought. Okay, okay.
And so they might want, the one that I struggle with a little bit is fears conflict, because I've told you before, I'm a peacemaker and I don't like conflict. But I think when there's right and wrong, you can't be afraid of that conflict because you have to stand up for the right thing. And so I think maybe he's pointing out big issues whenever um, there there are some things worth fighting for, and that's kind of what I've learned over time, I believe. And I can see that spiritual nomad too, not really believing in anything, and that's just easy. I've had some people, Christian friends, who say, "Well, I'm very spiritual. I'm just not. I just don't go to church, or I just don't practice my religion in a building." And I think, yeah, you're lazy and you don't really know what you believe. It's what I think about them sometimes. It
Very
takes
true.
commitment and it takes some energy to really develop, what you believe. So, yeah, I
Thank
think
you.
that's a pretty good list. I don't know. What do you think, Jenny? Have they hit them all?
Yeah, so go ahead, Jennifer.
I'm not sure. I think power hunger should be there too.
Yeah, I think so.
That's
And I've
definitely
known
negative.
some people who are just evil. Really, have you known someone who's just so mean and so evil and just does? They seem to do something just to cause hurt to someone else, and they don't care. So is does mean fit in there somewhere? I don't know, because I think there are some people who are evil. I really do, and that evilness makes them it makes them cowardly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
So
you're
I'm
right,
not sure.
because another book of Walter Wink is about the evilness of people, some people. But interestingly enough, so perfection, he has on his list perfectionist, so perfectional side of our human personality, and also sentimental. And I thought, how interesting. So sentimental and perfectionist is also on the negative side for him. And of course, he talks about the ascetic. And I thought ascetic is a good spiritual discipline, asceticism. But at the same time, when people withdraw from society, as we know, that's one of the sign of danger, when people are not just depressed, but some of them start kind of building these concepts of that takes them to sort of superhuman beings. They do not agree and do not approve anything. And so that's how this sense of, like we know, the mass shooting comes sometimes out of people who take themselves to that point when they just don't even see fit in anywhere. So people who are not connecting, people who are feeling better when they don't have any relationship, and they gradually separate themselves. And that's what I think we see also now on Putin videos, that he's so far away from people. He's just like about 6-8 feet away, and of course speculation go about his health and everything. But again, so it seems to Walter Wink that positive aspects of human being to be connected, to leave space for other people's individuality, to accept people as they are, also to understand our own weaknesses and be self-critical. And that's what teachers at school, and I know that you, Candy, retired teacher Jennifer now is fighting her battle with the school district. I think the best teachers are those who are able to kind of spot out or differentiate in their class those children who have this kind of, the eyes that do not have the sparkle, who are already so beat up, so who constantly are rejected, who cannot succeed in any area, and maybe they have bad grades, and so they lose that connection, and they are first embarrassed, but then it turns sometimes into anger and hatred to other individuals who are successful. You see, this is where good teachers, I think, are proactive, and they try to find something special in every child. So remember that no child left behind. So it's a wonderful, wonderful movement because every individual has something in her or him that makes them so valuable. Every person has a sense of worth. And to kill others or put them down, even use pejorative language, is just not acceptable. And that's why today, when we talk, of course, to people who are in different professions and have different job places and people who are church members, we just encourage everybody. Think about this list. And what is negative, try to see that, do I have anything within me that is negative? And if you think about like kind of a game, who will you clone? If you have the power, just think about these skills, these characteristics of a positive human being, but also above all, we talk today about Jesus Christ, who is the Messiah. And I want to end with something interesting that Walter Wink writes about. He says, Jesus never said that he was the Messiah, never used that language. And why? And I found it interesting. It just jumped at me because Jesus leaves space for each of us to find the Messiah within ourselves. Because we all have so much, we are gifted people, but we are suppressed by the system. And we also are suppressed by those people who are leaders. They shine, they have power, they have money, they have wealth. And then, of course, we kind of shy off. But that's what Jesus did not claim, that he is the Messiah. Remember, he would always, instead of answering, he will ask a question. And that's why I think he leaves us all the space today to find the truth within ourselves that gives us the energy and the courage, which is a positive side of us, to speak truth with love, love our enemies, and never violate another human being for whatever reason, color, language, or sexuality, whatever it is. But domination is not acceptable. So let's stick to the positive. Let's try to find that Messiah within us that connects us to Jesus Christ and his love for all of us. So anything at the end that you want to add? Does it sound right?
I do think that sounds just right, and it's you've given us something to think about today. Because in myself, I told you I'm a little judgmental. That's something I work on. I know it's never been a positive trait to me, but it's just something we all have those things that we need to work on. It's good to think about things like that.
Yeah, it made me think also when I was thinking about this podcast for today, what could be a spiritual moment that we can help our audience and ourselves, myself. Where do I kind of put myself if I think about how I act, how I listen? Jennifer, what do you think?
I think we all definitely have room for improvement.
Yeah. So, but also the encouragement that we have that Messiah that is within you, Jennifer, within you, Candy, within me, anybody who will watch us and who watches us today, that it is so much potential in everybody. And I'm so excited. So we will see you next Tuesday. Have a wonderful rest of the week. And hopefully this time with us will guide you through the week. Don't get discouraged, but also speak truth in love and love your enemies. God bless you.